there are places on Earth where reality begins to feel almost impossible. Places where swirling white clouds stretch across entire continents, where deep blue oceans move in patterns so vast they resemble brushstrokes on a living canvas, and where multicolored landscapes unfold in shapes and textures no human artist could ever invent. From far above, the planet feels alive, not still, not silent, but constantly shifting. Rivers carve their way across ancient land. Ice gathers, fractures, and drifts. Winds carry heat, water, and particles through invisible pathways across the atmosphere. Every corner of this world is moving, part of a complex, dynamic dance that has been unfolding for billions of years. Some places glow with brilliant color. Others disappear beneath shadow, cloud, or snow. Entire regions transform with the seasons, changing shape, changing texture, becoming something entirely new before our eyes. Seen from space, Earth is more than a planet. It is a system of endless motion, a world where land, water, air, and ice are constantly interacting, pushing against one another, reshaping one another, telling a story far older than humanity itself. And yet, for all that science can measure, the flowing mountain streams, the shifting ocean currents, the movement of heat across continents, there remains something deeply mysterious about it. Because the farther we step back, the more Earth begins to feel less like something we understand, and more like something we are only just beginning to know. A sparkling blue and white jewel. A beautiful, awe-inspiring world. The only home most of us will ever know. And somewhere in that realization, a question quietly begins to emerge. How much wonder can one planet hold? Before we finally learn how extraordinary it truly is. We call Earth home, but most of us know only a tiny, comfortable version of it. Cities, roads, climate-controlled rooms, predictable weather, predictable days. A world shaped to protect us, to shield us from discomfort, to create the comforting illusion that this planet is stable, manageable, made for us. But beyond those familiar boundaries, Earth becomes something else entirely. Not a home, a force, a machine of pressure, heat, ice, movement, violence, beauty. A planet still actively shaping itself. Because Earth is not finished. It never has been. Deep beneath our feet, tectonic plates collide, pushing mountains into the sky. Far above our heads, solar energy heats the atmosphere unevenly, driving winds, storms, and endless cycles of rain and drought. At the poles, sunlight disappears for months, allowing ice to grow thick enough to preserve ancient climates. At the equator, heat and water combine, fueling forests so dense they create weather of their own. Every extreme exists for a reason. Deserts form where dry air descends and refuses to release rain. Volcanoes rise where the planet's molten interior forces its way upward. Salt flats remain where ancient lakes vanished and left their minerals behind. Waterfalls plunge where land was fractured and lifted over time. Fire emerges where gases escape from cracks in the earth. Nothing here is random. Every extreme is evidence, proof that the planet is alive, still moving, still building, still destroying. And in these places, nature has not been softened for human convenience. There are no barriers, no temperature controls, no certainty, only raw conditions. Places where survival itself becomes a negotiation, where cold can freeze exposed skin in minutes, where heat can bend the air above the ground, where one wrong step can remind you how fragile the human body really is. And yet, we keep going, drawn toward the edges, toward the highest peaks, the driest deserts, the deepest forests, the coldest darkness. Not because they welcome us, but because they don't. Because somewhere in these extremes, we confront something we've forgotten. Perspective, humility, wonder. A reminder that this world was not built around human comfort. And that makes it infinitely more extraordinary. We are going to travel to those edges, to places where water vanishes before it lands, where stones move without touch, where rivers split and refuse to merge, where mountains breathe, where fire never stops burning, not just to see them, but to understand them, to witness what happens when Earth reveals its true nature, when the planet stops accommodating us and simply becomes itself. This is one of the most extreme places humans have ever chosen to live. The South Pole, a place where temperatures can plunge below -70 degrees Celsius, where the cold is not just uncomfortable, it is immediate, absolute, and unforgiving. Cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. Cold enough to turn every breath into crystals. Cold enough to threaten even the machinery built to survive it. Where airplane fuel itself can begin to freeze, cutting off one of the only lifelines to the outside world. And that means for nearly 8 months of every year, no one can leave, no one can arrive, no rescue flights, no deliveries, no escape. Only the people already there, waiting with the ice. Outside, there is only white, an emptiness so complete it erases distance. Sky and ground dissolve into one. No roads, no trees, no sound except the wind. And even that can feel like something alive. Inside, the struggle becomes something less visible. Isolation. A different kind of cold. The kind that settles quietly into the mind. Here the rhythm of life is rewritten. The sun rises only once, and it sets only once. 6 months of endless daylight, where sleep becomes a negotiation with brightness. Then 6 months of darkness, where the horizon disappears and time itself begins to blur. Imagine forgetting what sunset feels like, what rain sounds like. Imagine going so long without color, that even a green leaf can feel miraculous. And yet, people stay. They remain here by choice, working in one of the harshest environments on Earth, searching for answers hidden deep beneath miles of ancient ice. They study ice cores, layer after layer of frozen history. They examine the atmosphere. They read the chemical memories trapped inside the glacier, unlocking records of climates that existed long before human civilization. They search the distant past, while surviving one of the harshest presents imaginable. At the bottom of the world, where everything feels frozen, discovery never stops. Now, from freezing silence to unbearable heat, Death Valley, a landscape shaped by extremes. One of the hottest places ever recorded on Earth, where temperatures have climbed beyond 56 degrees Celsius, where sunlight doesn't just warm the ground, it punishes it. The heat here feels different. Not like summer, not like desert, but something heavier, something pressing down from every direction. The air itself feels dense, still, as if even the wind has surrendered. Each step across the valley floor feels deliberate. The earth radiates heat upward. The sky pushes it downward. And between them, you stand in the middle, hot enough to soften the soles of shoes, hot enough to drain strength faster than you realize, hot enough to make survival feel less like comfort and more like negotiation. But what makes this place extraordinary is not what moves. It's what shouldn't. Rocks, some weighing hundreds of pounds, sliding across solid ground, alone, leaving perfectly carved tracks in the dried mud behind them, as if something invisible had pulled them forward. For decades, no one could explain it. Visitors arrived and stared. Scientists returned again and again, and theories began to grow. Ghosts, magnetic forces, something hidden beneath the playa, something unknown. Because how could stones move when no one was there to push them? How could something so heavy drift across something so still? The mystery endured for years, until science finally revealed something even more beautiful than myth. Not magic, not the supernatural, but something quieter. Thin sheets of ice forming during rare cold nights, water spreading across the playa, freezing around the stones, then morning sunlight, a slight thaw and wind, steady, patient, almost invisible, pushing entire panels of floating ice, slowly enough that the stones move without sound, without urgency, without witnesses. A process so delicate, it can take years to be seen. And yet it happens, even here, in one of the driest places on Earth, where rain is rare, where life clings carefully to survival. Water still finds a way, not to carve canyons, not to fill rivers, but to move stone. A reminder that even in the harshest landscapes, the planet is never truly still. From lifeless desert to overwhelming life, the Amazon, the largest rainforest on Earth, a world so vast, so dense, so alive, that it feels less like a place and more like a living system. A green engine, breathing, growing, changing the air around it. Here, warm rain falls again and again. The weather barely changes. Hot, wet, constant. The air is heavy with moisture. The ground disappears beneath roots and fallen leaves. And above, layer after layer of life rises toward the sunlight. Every tree is reaching upward. Every branch carries something alive. Fruits and seeds fall from the treetops, feeding the forest floor below. Nothing here stands alone. Everything is connected. Everything depends on something else. But the Amazon is not peaceful. It only appears that way from a distance. Step inside, and it becomes something else. A battlefield, a place where survival is constant. Animals hide in the trees. Birds live high above the ground. Insects move through shadows no one notices. Every layer of the forest holds different life, different dangers, different struggles. Trees compete for sunlight. Roots fight for space. Plants and animals adapt to a world that never stops demanding more. Everything here is alive, and everything is trying to survive. Even the river feels impossible. The great Amazon River, stretching thousands of kilometers, carrying life through the heart of the forest. It begins far away, high in the Andes, and moves steadily toward the Atlantic Ocean. Along its journey it changes. The land changes. The people change. The forest changes. And near Manaus, the most important city in the Amazon rainforest, something extraordinary happens. Two great rivers meet, side by side, one dark, one lighter. flowing together but not becoming one. Not yet. For miles, they travel beside each other, separate, distinct, as if each carries its own memory, its own identity, its own direction. Eventually, they merge, slowly, patiently, as though even water needs time to learn how to become something new. Then, there are places that don't just challenge what you see, they challenge what you believe. Bolivia, Salar de Uyuni, the largest salt flat on Earth. More than 10,000 square kilometers of open, uninterrupted white. Stretching so far, it seems to erase the idea of distance itself. A place born from ancient lakes, transformed over time into a vast plain of salt, where the ground beneath your feet feels both solid and strangely unreal. During the dry season, it becomes something almost extraterrestrial. A brilliant white expanse, blinding beneath the sun, silent, endless. The surface breaks into endless geometric patterns, natural hexagons of salt, formed and reformed by wind, heat, and time. Every direction looks the same. No landmarks, no shadows to guide you. Only a horizon so distant, it feels unreachable. And then, the rain comes. Only a thin layer, barely enough to cover the ground, but enough to transform everything. Suddenly, something impossible happens. The earth disappears. Sky above, sky below, clouds floating overhead, and beneath your feet. No horizon, no edge, no clear beginning or end, no depth, no up, no down, only reflection. A perfect natural mirror, so precise that walking across it feels less like travel and more like suspension, as if gravity itself has loosened its hold. Standing here, your sense of distance begins to collapse. Objects seem closer than they are. People shrink into silhouettes. Footsteps feel disconnected from the ground. Even your own reflection begins to feel unfamiliar. For a moment, the world loses its boundaries. And maybe so do you. There are no cities here, no noise, no movement except wind and light. Only space, only silence, only the strange feeling of being suspended inside something far greater than yourself. Not standing on the planet, but somehow inside it. Volcanoes are usually defined by chaos, violence, pressure, destruction. They fracture the ground. They reshape landscapes. They remind us that the earth beneath our feet is never truly still. But sometimes, amid all that power, they create something unexpectedly delicate. Mount Etna, rising above eastern Sicily, one of the most active volcanic systems on Earth, a mountain in constant conversation with itself. Its interior alive with moving magma, shifting pressure, and pathways carved deep beneath the surface. Nothing here is fixed. Its eruptions change. Its vents migrate. Its underground chambers fill, empty, and refill again. The mountain breathes, and occasionally it exhales. Not lava, not ash, but something far stranger. Perfect circles, smoke rings, volcanic gas released in brief, precise pulses, rising upward in silent symmetry, expanding, floating, holding the shape against the sky. For a moment, a violent mountain behaves like an artist, drawing temporary patterns in the air, a gesture so delicate it feels impossible, coming from something so powerful. But beneath that elegance, the forces at work are immense. Deep below the summit, magma moves through hidden conduits. Gas builds, pressure changes. Different magma bodies interact, mixing, rising, transforming. Every eruption is part of a larger system. A reminder that what appears calm above ground often conceals extraordinary movement below. Etna is never fully asleep, only quieter, only waiting. And yet, beneath this restless mountain, life continues. On land shaped by ancient eruptions, on soil built from past destruction. Communities remain, people adapt. Daily life unfolds in the shadow of uncertainty. Because here, danger is not distant. It is part of the landscape, part of the rhythm, part of what makes this place possible. A mountain capable of destruction and creation, violence and beauty, precision and unpredictability. A reminder that even the most unstable forces on Earth can sometimes create something breathtakingly gentle. In the Karakum Desert, the Earth has been burning for decades. The Darwaza crater, known by many as the Gates of Hell, a fire burning in the middle of emptiness. A crater formed after a Soviet gas exploration accident in 1971. To prevent dangerous methane gas from spreading, it was set alight. The expectation was simple: a few days, maybe a few weeks. Instead, the fire never stopped. To this day, the desert glows orange. Across the dark sands, light flickers against the emptiness. Flames rise and twist inside a crater nearly 60 meters wide, deep, glowing, alive. No lava, no volcano, no natural eruption, only fire, burning straight from the earth. The surrounding desert is quiet, still, but at the center, the ground breathes heat. The flames move endlessly, dancing across the crater floor, disappearing, then rising again. A human mistake, transformed into something unforgettable. A wound in the earth that became one of its strangest wonders. Some places feel abandoned, not by people, by mercy. Namibia's Skeleton Coast, a place where land meets ocean, but never in peace. A coastline shaped by isolation, by wind, by salt, by memory. Dense fog rolls in from the Atlantic, covering the shore in silence. The sea disappears, the horizon fades, and suddenly the world feels unfinished, as if Earth never decided whether this place should become land or remain sea. The desert stretches toward the water. The water presses back, and between them, history remains. Not only in the landscape, but in the memories carried by those who once lived here. This is not an empty place. It is a remembered one. A cultural landscape where generations once returned for what the land could offer. For Nara melons, a valued desert food, gathered carefully from the harsh terrain. For marine foods, mussels collected where the coast allowed. For places known by name, for former dwelling grounds, for the graves of ancestors, still remembered by families today. At first glance, it feels empty, silent, unforgiving. But life persists here, not only in what grows, but in what is remembered. In stories passed down. In landscapes that still hold human presence, even when no one is visible. Every dune, every river mouth, every hidden place along this coast carries meaning. A reminder that survival is not always loud. Sometimes it is memory. Sometimes it is return. And even here, at the edge of desert and ocean, life refuses surrender. In Venezuela, water falls so far. It seems to vanish before it ever arrives. Angel Falls, a vertical world, the tallest uninterrupted waterfall on Earth. Nearly 1 kilometer high, a descent so immense, it challenges the eye's ability to follow it. The water begins its journey high above, spilling over the edge of an ancient plateau, a towering rock formation, rising out of the landscape like something older than memory. And then it drops, not in a rush, not in a single solid line, but in stages of disappearance. The fall is so extreme. The wind intervenes, pulling the water apart, breaking it into drifting strands. Mist replaces river, cloud replaces waterfall. What begins as flowing water becomes vapor suspended in air. From below you never truly see it reach the ground. No dramatic collision, no final impact, only a faint white haze, the ghost of where the river should land, as if gravity itself cannot fully complete the journey. There is something ancient about this place, not only in its height, but in its presence. The surrounding landscape feels untouched, almost prehistoric. A place where stone, water, and sky have been repeating the same quiet ritual for longer than human memory can hold. The waterfall does not roar toward you. It hovers, it dissolves, it disappears. And that is what makes it unforgettable. You come expecting to witness falling water. Instead, you witness transformation. River becoming mist, mist becoming cloud, movement becoming absence. A waterfall so tall, it spends part of its journey no longer looking like water at all. As if nature itself is reminding us that even something as certain as gravity can leave room for mystery. There's something strange about extreme places. They frighten us, and yet they pull us closer toward the freezing silence of Antarctica, toward deserts where stones move on their own, toward rivers so vast they seem alive, toward mountains that breathe smoke into the sky, toward fire burning endlessly from the earth itself. We know these places can be unforgiving. We know they can overwhelm us, and still, we go. Maybe because they remind us what this planet really is. Not a backdrop, not scenery, not something designed for our comfort, but something older, something wilder, something that existed long before us and will endure long after us. A planet constantly moving, shifting, breathing, creating beauty and danger in the same moment. And somehow, that makes it even more beautiful. In cities, we measure control, we build walls, we predict weather, we light the darkness, we shape the world until it feels manageable. But here, in the planet's most extreme places, we measure something else: surrender, humility, perspective. Because no matter how advanced we become, standing beneath a waterfall that disappears into mist, walking across a salt flat where the sky erases to horizon, or watching flames rise from a crater in the middle of an empty desert, we are reminded of something simple. We are small, wonderfully, unavoidably, beautifully small. And yet, humans keep coming, building research stations in frozen darkness, crossing endless deserts beneath burning skies, climbing impossible mountains, floating through underground rivers, standing quietly at the edge of fire, not to conquer these places, not to tame them, but to feel them, to stand inside something greater than ourselves. If only for a moment, maybe we aren't searching for places. Maybe We are searching for perspective, a way to step outside our routines, to interrupt the illusion that we are in control, to remember what awe feels like, to remember what humility feels like, to remember how extraordinary it is to exist on a planet this alive, a planet that can freeze, burn, flood, rise, collapse, and still create beauty beyond imagination. And perhaps that is why we keep returning, not despite the danger, but because of what it reveals. That Earth is not simply where we live. It is the greatest wonder we will ever explore. At the farthest edges of this world, where ice burns, where deserts breathe, where oceans fall and rivers refuse to mix, the planet whispers something easy to forget. You were never separate from nature. You were always part of it. And no matter how much we build, how much we control, how much we believe we understand, Earth still holds places capable of humbling us into silence.